Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a fascinating new study, one that could completely change how we use antibiotics on farms. And believe me, this has massive implications, not just for the animals, but for our own health too.
And really, this is the big question, isn't it? For decades, the answer has been, well, it's been evolving. But right now, we're at a crossroads. How we treat our farm animals today is going to directly shape the future of medicine for every single one of us.
Okay, so the whole issue really boils down to this fundamental conflict. On one hand, you've got farmers who, understandably, need to treat a very common and very costly disease in their dairy cows. But on the other side of the coin, we're all facing this growing global threat of antimicrobial resistance. These superbugs that are just getting scarier and harder to kill.
So what is this illness? It's called mastitis. It's basically a bacterial infection in a cow's udder, and it is a huge deal for farmers. We're talking major economic losses from lost milk and all the costs of treatment. And get this, it is by a long shot the #1 reason antibiotics are even used on dairy farms.
And just to give you a sense of the scale here, check this out. A whopping 60%. 60 of all the antibiotics used on dairy farms are for this one single condition. That's just an incredible amount of medicine. So you have to ask, how have we been dealing with this traditionally?
All right, let's get into it. For a long, long time, the strategy for handling mastitis has been really broad, very preventative. A lot of people call it the blanket approach.
The go-to method is called dry cow therapy, or DCT for short. It's all about prevention. See, cows have what's called a dry period. That's the time when they stop being milked just before they have their next calf. And during this time, they're given antibiotics. The idea is to knock out any lingering infections and stop new ones from starting.
Now, this strategy hasn't stood still. If you rewind to the 1960s, blanket therapy meant exactly what it sounds like. Every single cow got treated, whether she was sick or not. Fast forward to more recent years, and we've shifted to selective therapy, where you only treat the cows you know have an infection, which is better for sure. But this new study is asking, can we get even smarter about it? And look, this isn't just some small-time farming issue. This is a huge global concern. You have major health organizations like the European Commission pushing really hard to cut back on the routine use of antibiotics in agriculture. Why? To make sure these life-saving drugs actually still work for us in the future. And that's the perfect setup for where this new research comes in. A group of scientists proposed something, well, smarter, a much more personalized method. A genuinely targeted treatment.
The core idea here is so simple, but it's also incredibly powerful. It's not just about picking which cows to treat anymore. The question they asked was, what if we also picked the perfect antibiotic for the specific bacteria that's causing the problem? It's basically a move away from just being selective to being precise, real precision medicine, but on the farm.
So here's how they set up the experiment. The researchers took almost 300 cows and split them into two groups. You had your control group, and they got the standard treatment you'd see today, a general one-size-fits-all antibiotic. But then you had the treatment group, and they got a specific antibiotic that was chosen only after lab tests figured out the exact bug causing their infection. And the process is pretty straightforward, really. Step 1, you culture a milk sample to find out exactly what bacteria you're dealing with. Step 2, you run a test, it's called an antibiogram, to see which antibiotics actually work against that specific bacteria. And then, step 3, you give the cow the one that's most effective. It's like your doctor running a lab test to give you the perfect prescription, not just grabbing a generic bottle off the shelf. Okay, so this is the moment of truth. The big question. Did it actually work? Was all that extra testing really worth the effort? Well, the results? They weren't just good. They were absolutely decisive. In every single important category they measured, the group that got the personalized antibiotic did way, way better. Let's break down the numbers. Okay, first up, the big one, the overall cure rate. Basically, how well did the treatment work at knocking out the infection for good? With the standard therapy, about 55% of the cows were cured. Not bad, but the targeted therapy, a whopping 75%. That is a gigantic leap in how effective the treatment is. All right, next, let's look at new infections. This is all about prevention. How many cows ended up getting a new infection during that dry period? In the control group, more than 42% picked up a new infection. But in the targeted group, That number was nearly sliced in half, dropping all the way down to just under 23%. And all these numbers led to a really dramatic result in the real world. Simply put, a lot fewer sick cows. After the cows gave birth, the number that came down with full-blown clinical mastitis was more than cut in half. It went from over 17% in the standard group to less than 8% in the targeted one. Huge difference. And when you dig into the data, you can see just how powerful this is against specific problem bacteria. Let's take Staph aureus. It's a really nasty bug, notoriously hard to treat. The standard therapy only managed to cure about 32% of those infections. But with the targeted therapy, that number skyrocketed to over 73%. And it wasn't a fluke. You see these kinds of massive improvements for all the other major pathogens too. So what's the big takeaway here? What does this all mean? Well, the implications of a study like this go way, way beyond the dairy farm. This is really about building a safer future for all of us. Okay, to put it simply, this targeted method means you get healthier cows. That's fantastic for animal welfare, and it's great for the farmer's bottom line. But the bigger deal, the more important part, is that it means we're using antibiotics so much smarter. It's like using a scalpel instead of a sledgehammer. We're using the right tool for the right job, and that is a massive step forward in the global fight against superbugs. And, the study's authors really say it best. They wrap up by saying that this approach is a direct benefit to public health, plain and simple, because it helps slow down the development of antibiotic resistance. It's a powerful reminder that what happens on the farm definitely does not stay on the farm. So when you boil it all down, by bringing this kind of precision medicine to our farms, we get a triple win: healthier animals, a big reduction in antibiotic use, and we help protect these absolutely critical medicines for all of us. And that means a safer food supply for everyone. This one study really points towards a powerful new way forward. It suggests that maybe the future of sustainable farming isn't just about flashy new tech, but about being way smarter and more precise with the tools we've already got. And it leaves you with a really big question to chew on. Could this be the beginning of a whole new era of personalized medicine, not just for people, but for all animals?